Hey guys, it's Paradox. Today I'm going to be going over a few tips and tricks in preparation for Battlefield 1. These will mainly be for Battlefield, but they can translate over to other FPS games. This episode will be going over movement and how to use it properly, which is not just important, but it is necessary to get right in Battlefield if you want to be the best you can be. Starting off with strafing. Commonly referred to as 80-80 on PC, this movement is used during gunfights to minimize the damage taken to you, and also to throw off your enemy's aim. This is the most basic of all FPS game movements, and it is by far the most useful thing you will ever learn. Now, moving left and right is all fine and dandy until you get killed, and the reason for that is just moving side to side on its own is not enough to win every firefight. If you fall into a pattern, eventually your enemy will see it, and they will compensate for it, mostly just by waiting for you to move back into their crosshairs. So, the way to combat that is to randomize your movements. Don't just go left to right constantly. Maybe move to the left a slight bit, then move to the right, and maybe go further right. You have to keep the enemies on their toes and not fall into a rhythm. This is something that all good players have learned to do naturally and for a good reason. It wins firefights. Now we're going to talk about crouching and going prone. These are things you will see players do all the time in Battlefield, but what are their negatives and positives, right? So let's start with crouching. Crouching allows you to make yourself a smaller target and also increases your accuracy. But it will slow you down somewhat, so always be wary of that. Whereas going prone will significantly increase your accuracy, and it will also keep you quite well hidden, especially if you're on a map with high foliage. But you will barely be able to move, and you're also very susceptible to knife attacks. So when should I crouch and when should I go prone? Well, crouching you want to use mainly for when you're firing at an enemy far away. This is based on the weapon you're using, PDWs mid-range, assault rifles long range, etc. And also when you're reloading during a firefight. This is only if you're behind cover though. So you just do that to ensure your safety until you're ready to retaliate again with a full magazine. Whereas going prone, I don't really recommend doing this unless you're being shot at and you're close to death. If that's the case though, then you can dive behind some cover, drop a medkit and just regain health. Or if you're being chased by a vehicle and there's a ledge that you could drop off maybe, then sometimes it's worth prone diving off that ledge to increase your survivability. Other than that though, the only other time I'd go prone is like to hide in some bushes if you're behind enemy lines and you don't want to be seen, you want your team to spawn you, that's probably the better time to prone. But other than that, it's not really worth proning in Battlefield. So now the basics of movement are down, let's talk about soldier collision and how you should move around as to not get in the way and be useful to your team. So as we all know in Battlefield, your soldiers will collide with each other, meaning that you can't just walk through your fellow soldier. Seems obvious, right? Well, in some games you don't collide with your fellow teammates, but in Battlefield you do. So what this leads to is a lot of blocked doorways and annoyed players. When you see friendly players moving in and out of doorways, just try to stay out of their way, as sometimes they will have low health and they're trying to get back to safety. But if you block them and they die, all that will leave is a frustrated player and the unnecessary loss of a ticket for your team. Don't fear, blocking can sometimes be a good thing. Often if I know a grenade has been thrown, or I see a teammate running for his life, I will block my teammates from moving as to prevent them from dying by said grenade or blocking that teammate from entering. You just have to be aware of what's going on around you and do your best to help your team. The last part of the tutorial is jumping. It's a pretty quick and simple one. We all know what jumping is, we all know what it does. It allows you to traverse the environment better. So basically it's just trial and error. You just walk around maps whilst you're playing. You try to find spots you can jump up on, and those spots hopefully will allow you to get decent flanks. That's all jumping really is for. Sometimes you can use it to get around a corner quickly if you're low health and you're being shot at. But other than that, it's a pretty minor part of the movement system, I have to say. Thanks for joining me in this tutorial. Hope you learned something. I'll be making a few more of these, so leave a like if you enjoyed, a dislike if you didn't, and subscribe for more content. And finally, have a great day and see you next time.